It's a brand new week. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations right here on Business Morning. I'm Ini John Mekwa. And we start as usual from the global space. Oil prices, they rose today, and it's based on optimism that the United States government shutdown could end soon and lift demand in the world's top oil consumer, offsetting concerns about rising supplies globally. Looking at the numbers, we see very beautiful color this morning, 0.82% in the green for Brent, and that price at $64.15 a barrel. For WTI, which is from the United States, it's 0.90% in the green, $60.29 a barrel. Brent and WTI, they fell about 2% last week and notched their second weekly decline on fears of supply gluts. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and their allies, that's OPEC+, they agreed to increase output slightly in December, but it also paused further hikes in the first quarter, and that's because of supply gluts. That threat really there. Now, United States President Trump's decision to grant Hungary a one-year exemption from U.S. sanctions on Russia oil imports added to global oversupply concerns also at the end of the week yesterday. And away from that, see market review for last week, we see that Nigeria's market closed in the negative again at the end of the week yesterday and last week, I beg your pardon. It's almost 3% down, 2.99% to be precise, 149,000. We started the week at about 154,000 level, but closed less than 150,000 last week. A lot of profit taken. I think about 2 trillion naira was taken away from the market by investors. A combination of factors, top on the list being that capital gains tax, which a lot of investors are very conscious of. It's been moved from 10% to 30%, and implementation begins in January. That's scaring a lot of investors, according to traders in the market. So we see a lot of investors, especially the big investors, because the tax will affect those whose gains will go up, will be above 100 million naira every year. So we see big investors trying to run away before that. But I also learned that talks are on to see if there can be a reduction in the percentage of the capital gains tax, maybe from 30% to something lower than that, because it used to be 10% for a long time. So we'll see if there's success from that front before January, and of course that will do a lot of help to investor sentiment in the market. Meanwhile, activity last week was all red, from volume to value to deals, all in the red. Sectors were all red. Most hit was oil and gas. Aradel obviously leading that, even though we saw a bit of recovery before the close of the week last week, but we saw that oil and gas counter lost 4.8%. Banking followed 3.85%, consumer goods 2.54%, and industrial goods lost 1.09%. Insurance took a huge hit also, 7.56% at the close of trade last week. Top gainers, NCR Nigeria PLC, Unicel, and Union Dye Consult PLC. They lost, shaved off some of those profits and from their prize. Top losers, Sovereign Trust Insurance, CNI, Leasing, Skyway, Aviation, they were the top losers. Top trades at the close of trade last week: Fidelity Bank, FCMB Group, and ASO Savings and Loans. Away from the market now, Nigeria recorded a significant surge in the foreign inflows. It hit 5.15 billion naira for the month of October alone. This is according to data from FMDQ platform. The figure represents a 62.2% increase compared to September, driven largely by renewed participation of foreign portfolio investors in the 6 open market operations, that's OMO auctions, that were conducted by the Central Bank of Nigeria in the month of October. The rise also reflects The CBN sustained efforts to boost diaspora remittances and streamline foreign exchange supply channels, with inflows from non-oil sectors showing notable improvement. The CBN is expected to provide a detailed breakdown of these inflows in its upcoming external sector report, which covers investment, remittances, and trade segments. The Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, in collaboration with the National Pension Commission, PENCOM, is exploring strategies for expanding investment opportunities in gold-backed securities through Nigeria's Commodities Exchange. The group had a meeting in Lagos to further this new trend in the wake of the revised regulation on investment of pension fund assets issued by PENCOM in September 2025, which now formally includes gold-backed instruments among approved pension fund investment options. This regulatory milestone marks a significant step in deepening capital market participation and fostering sustainable economic growth in Nigeria. Recent reforms in Nigeria's pension industry has liberalized its investing opportunities and motivated this meeting themed Commodities Exchange Gold-Backed Investment Opportunities for Pension Assets.
For our pension industry that's growing every day, it is a very big opportunity, and it's a very, very good time now for them to start diversifying their portfolio to move from other asset classes, at least to be able to have a balanced portfolio and hedge against inflation. And if you have a consolidated position in the fixed income markets, stabilization securities, treasury bills, and also for the volatile equities market, there has to be a balance whereby we have gold.
However, the focus is not just on pension funds. The plan has been expanded for national good.
The Minister for Solid Minerals mentioned the fact that the country is looking at domestic gold purchase program, and I'm happy that we have a representative from Solid Minerals Development Fund. They've done it successfully in Ghana, and there's no need for us to reinvent the wheel. The skill sets reside in Nigeria, and I can tell you, even the skill sets that are in this room, what have they done in Ghana that they've been able to master it? They set up what is called National Domestic Gold Purchase Program under the auspices of Bank of Ghana. So if you are investors or you are a foreign buyer, you bring in your FX, you deposit it with the central bank. That gives you comfort with the Bank of Ghana. Then they have the artisanal miners that they are working with. They've been profiled, so they have cooperatives. So you've taken money from foreign investors. So what they've done is to activate the national ASEA. It's called Precious Metal Marketing Company. So those ones, they've organized the artisanal miners to go and mine. So when they mine, they test it to meet certain purity. You know, gold is always judged by carats or purity level. And at the end of, maybe within 14 days, that gold is ready. Then they deliver to your preferred destination of choice.
Many here believe that activities in the commodities market, especially on gold-backed securities, is also open to individuals.
Today world, if you in your portfolio, if you don't have gold as an asset in your portfolio, then you are limited. You are limited because the opportunities are limitless. And for you to have a portfolio that is thoroughly balanced, gold is inevitable.
The forum underscores the growing synergy between Nigeria's pension industry and commodities market, reinforcing the role of gold-backed investments as a stable and profitable asset class for institutional investors. All right, so now let's talk about small businesses for now. We've been talking a whole lot about them, and it seems we cannot have enough or talk enough about them, since they're the engine room of Nigeria, or any country at that, any country's progressive movement, apart from the gold you just saw, their opportunity to hedge against inflation and all of that. But talking about small businesses, we say that in Nigeria, they make up there are about almost 40 million. But this data is about December 2021, and they contribute about 48% of Nigeria's GDP. They account for 84% of employment, account for 96% of all businesses in the country. Over 50% unfortunately fail in their first year over 95% fail within 5 years. 65% of informal businesses saw higher revenue, but along with that, of course, came higher operational costs. And so we've seen a lot of efforts and policies by the government to make operations better for small businesses in the country. But I wonder how effective it has been, how much that has drilled down to the real operators in the country. That's a question that we may be able to answer at the end of this segment we're about to start. And we're doing it with Mrs. Chinwe Ezenwa. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Leluk Manufacturers Nigeria Limited. She does a lot of bags and fanciful things. Mrs. Ezenwa, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
So the talks of struggles by small businesses in Nigeria, but we've seen the Bola Tinubu administration pronounce a lot of policies and efforts. Top on it is to make funds, especially accessible, operating environment. How much has this affected operations in reality?
Thank you very much for having me. You know, like I've often said to people, business is war, and you have enemies everywhere. But having said that, the business of a small business owner has a lot of challenges. But thank God there is hope. This renewed hope that came with this administration that is talking about Nigeria First policy. So that has really helped us, the small businesses. Although there are challenges, policy shifts here and there, and I believe the government can do a lot better because access to finance is still a thorny issue. Infrastructure, electricity, multiple taxation. You just name it, it's war. But some of us are determined to make it. We've been at this for 40 years and we're still thriving.
So it doesn't look like we're just focusing on the negative. Has there been any relief, let's say, in this administration? Because a lot of people have said, oh, President Tinubu is a very, you know, I mean, I remember how the markets bounced up. Immediately it was announced that, you know, he was one of the foreigners, and then eventually he won. It seemed like a lot of investors looked at his trend and believed that he would do the economy and especially businesses good. So would you say there are things you have enjoyed as the operator of a small business in the last how many years that President Tinubu has been in power?
Yes, in the past 2 years I've seen tremendous improvement in my own operations. There is the new Minister of Trade and Investment, Professor Oduwole, who has, you know, really raised the bar, provided access to market, and access also to finance. And I dare say that since the Tinubu administration, this policy of patronizing made in Nigeria goods has really prospered most of us. And with the incoming AFCFTA agreement and the customs authorized economic operating programs of which we are beneficiaries, I think a lot has happened positively.
Are you already benefiting?
Oh yes, because I'm the first to get the certificate of origin under AFCFTA to, you know, ship my goods out of Nigeria. And I'm also the first to get the authorized economic operating status with the Nigerian customs. All of this has happened during this administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR.
You know, a lot of people, when you talk about government policies, it seems very far away from them. So it's interesting that you would be the first, or say you're the first to have gotten that the certificate of origin? Because I did speak to someone some time ago, and they told me even the bureaucracy around getting recognized to use the platform, the AFCFTA platform, hasn't been easy to access. So perhaps you can share your experience for a lot of people out there who would like to know, who have been trying, to also get the certificates.
Okay, my journey started when Segun Awolowo was there and still there as the coordinator, national coordinator. They did a lot of sensitization programs. They did their guided trade initiative programs that enlightened a lot of people on what it means to join AFCFTA. I took particular interest because I've been exporting informally, but that brought me to the sort of shipment. And again, I dare say there's a lot for small businesses to learn. If you seek, you will find. I will encourage them to look out. But there should be more sensitization for small businesses in various languages, not only for the elites. For the rural business owner, there should be sensitization. So I benefited. And when customs also advertised that they were looking for people who will comply, because AEO is a compliant status you get. You have to, it's very intrusive. You have to allow customs to come into your environment to, investigate, audit what you're doing. And then, if they're satisfied, they grant you that status. So I'm enjoying both at the moment.
What are you enjoying, though?
What I'm enjoying is this fast track from customs. If I'm shipping out, it's like a VIP treatment. And if I'm importing, it is same, because I declare exactly what I'm bringing in, raw materials. And when I'm sending goods out, I declare, and what I say that I'm doing is what exactly I'm doing. So I think, for me, I think it's okay. So, except for the infrastructure, we use a lot of diesel. We don't have lights. So it costs more to produce in Nigeria than anywhere else. We find it difficult to compete. But we are managing. We're managing. Yeah.
So it does seem from what you have said that there are some benefits available to small businesses, but unknown to them. Because in a meeting recently where a lot of traders have complained about customs and the harassment that they go through bringing in raw materials into the country. And the customs talked about this AEO and challenged them that they are not taking advantage of it. But I think let's take a short break now. Let's take a short break. Then we'll continue this conversation in just a bit. Please stay with us. You're welcome back. Thank you for staying there with us. We're discussing, the opportunities available to small businesses, which seems It seems like a lot of operators of small businesses in the country are not aware of and have not taken advantage of. But fortunately, we do have Mrs. Ezenwa here, who says she has taken advantage of some of those businesses and she's enjoying the benefits thereof. So Mrs. Ezenwa was asking, it does seem like, as you said, there's the need for enlightenment, because even the government seems to be at the top, creating these opportunities. It doesn't trickle down to the people who should use it. I mean, look at what you're enjoying, a VIP treatment when you want to import and export, and then you're using the AFCFTA platform, which you have testified to.
Yes, I still maintain we need to sensitize more. Customs need to educate the people more. Just a few of us are enjoying this benefit. They need to go out there and let the people know. In my own space, I run an academy where I train young people on how to make bags. This academy is in Lagos, it's in Abuja, and it's in Enugu.
And it's free of charge.
And it's free. And currently, we are partnering with Nigerian Export Promotion Council to run the Export Skill Acquisition Center. And we have a curriculum. In that curriculum, we are breaking down all these benefits so that people will get to know about them and start early. But customs and all the agencies, SMEs, BOI, they need to take these messages to the grassroots. It's not enough just.
So when you say these opportunities are free, you teach young people how to make bags. Who qualifies? Just anybody? Or do you need to have a background in something?
No. I am doing it to give back to society, really. From ages 18 to 25. Most of these youths are just unemployed. Some don't have skill. And recently, there are some that have graduate qualifications but no skill. It's now skills, not degrees, because there are not enough jobs in these corporations. So you need a skill. So I offer them that skill. And when they are done, they can be on their own. We train.
But is there markets, though?
Oh, there is a lot of
There's
market.
enough market demand for the bags.
Oh, of course. Everybody carries a bag. I mean, all over the world, people are carrying bags and you don't have enough bag makers. So the more the merrier. And I also believe that government should encourage some of us who are doing this. At least they can provide what we call a hub, a production hub, a common user facility, where these ones we have trained can go and use the equipment.
Because
there.
Getting the skills is one thing. Actually, having the capital to start the business is another thing. So that takes us back to the funding issue, access to funds.
That is a problem. Access to finance, especially to women, so difficult.
Why especially women?
Well, because they ask you for so many things, and if you're a married woman, you need to get clearance from your husband to go and collateralize your property. I mean, it's tougher for women. But I know now that BOI is trying to do some funding for only women. And it has to be a woman-owned business. But they have to simplify the process of getting these loans because the documentation is complicated. Most women don't understand all these complications. They have a registry where you can collateralize some of the things you own, like your jewelry or your car, to get a loan. It should be simplified. Not everybody can do this. Startups are stranded. So I think they should monitor these people that give out these loans so that development partners like UNDP They've come to our aid. UNDP, incidentally, sent about 100 people to my academy, paid for them. So if other agencies can do that, that will help. Our academy is one of the biggest in Africa, in Abuja. So we churned out about 200 people this year alone. So if we're encouraged, we can do more. And it can be replicated in all the other states so that youths can be employed. They're looking for employment. I think I have an answer to youth restiveness and unemployment. They should come and learn how to make bags.
Everybody will make bags. The whole country will be filled with bags.
Yes, and you export them. You have to export. If Chinese are dumping their bags here, why don't you dump it back to them?
But do we have the materials, though, for good quality bags?
We do. We do. We have also gone to Cross River to look at the raffia they have, the bananas, the plantain plants. People are coming up with a lot of things, but our raw materials and research development centers should come around to see what we're doing and see what they can do.
Have you invited them?
Of course we have, so you can't sit in your comfort zone and know what people are doing. You have to go out there and see, So I believe that that is a good industry to engage a lot of youth.
Okay, so let's just give an invitation now. Maybe you should just look to the camera and invite the raw materials and research, because I know they have been, this is your camera, they have been kind of vocal recently. Mrs. Zenwa, this way.
Yes.
Okay, so look here and invite the raw materials and research.
Well, I'm using this opportunity to invite the Raw Materials and Research Development Center in Abuja, in particular, to come and visit us and see what we're doing. And then see all the raw materials we use and see how they can actually, introduce them. See how to convert waste to wealth. The fabrics from all these things lying around the coastline. So we can use them to be producing things, beautiful things. If you go to Bangladesh, this is what they are doing. You go to Vietnam, this is what they are doing. The research centers are to be held accountable for us not having enough materials to do our work.
So we'll ensure that goes viral for them to get also. And I know you talked about the issue of infrastructural development, which is affecting everybody in the country. The gap is wide. We've seen the government take some loans, to close this gap, but I guess they're not doing it fast enough for operators like yourself.
They are not. Because we are hearing so much about power, solarization. It's only recently UNDP unveiled the solarization of what they call the maker space in Abuja, under SMEs. But how many people have access to that space? So government should actually, the Ministry of Power, should actually go out there and see how to help SMEs. Because we are really suffering in this country. It's only very few that can, claim to be successful. Startups die 5 years after starting because they have no access to all these facilities.
All right, well, we do hope that we hear from them soon. Thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
Mrs. Chinwe Zenwa, the Chief Executive Officer of Luluk Manufacturers Nigeria Limited. We wish you the very best.
Thank you.
And thank you for your contribution back into the society.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, talking about AFCFTA, we'll have a conversation waiting for you on that. Please stay with us. Yeah, welcome back. It's still Business Morning right here on Channels Television. Well, I was saying just before the break that we're talking about, Mrs. Zenwa was talking about AFCFTA and what she's enjoying. We're having a certificate of origin from that platform. Well, I did have a conversation with the Director of Trade and Services from the AFCFTA Secretariat, the director there, on some of these issues, talking about intra-African trade, how the number has increased to the encouragement of a whole lot of people, and what else to expect from AFCFTA. I had that conversation earlier and put it together for you to see.
Looking at the numbers, actually, you can see that intra-African trade has increased. And when we have some numbers and from data that is available, we see that intra-African trade has improved, let's say, from the US dollars 140 billion in 2017 to about $190 billion in 2023. This shows a really remarkable increase in terms of intra-African trade, and even for the continent, there has been great increase, even in terms of the percentages. And we see that if you look at data that was in the Afreximbank trade report, they have indicated that Africa is growing at about 4.2%. Yes, our target was at 5%, but we are still on it, and it's actually quite encouraging that last year, though with all the challenges that are there, we were still able to grow and not decline. And I think the future is looking quite bright in that way.
That's interesting, and of course we should celebrate some things here in Africa once we have those. But you know, there was the introduction of PAPS, because payment system was named as one of the hurdles to boosting trade on the continent. I mean, even personally, I've experienced it where you travel to a neighboring country, you want to pay for a hotel, and it's a whole lot of trouble. But we've had PAPS. Has that made any change? How effective has that been?
Yeah, PAPS in full, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, is really a payment system that has been developed between Afreximbank and the AFCFTA Secretariat. And of course, as you have mentioned, the intention is to ensure that we improve payments in the continent. And how to do this? What PAPS, one of the key things about PAPS is that it actually ensures that we are paying in our own local currency in real time. So they're able to get then the exchange rate directly. Let's say I come from Kenya shillings to the Ghanaian cedis or to the Naira of Nigeria. And you have then a payment that needs to be done from Nigeria to Kenya. Kenya, we use Kenya shillings. And that payment then can be done in Naira from the person who is buying goods, let's say from Kenya. And the funds are then received in Kenya shillings by the seller who is based in Kenya. So it actually helps Africa to bypass the problem that we have in Africa, where we have 42 different currencies in the continent. So perhaps we can consider it to be a really game changer in the continent. And another addition to PAPS, it's the marketplace. We have now what we call a PAPS marketplace. And with that, you see, like, if you have a situation where a company has funds that are stuck in one country, then they are able to then balance it out with the funds in another country where that company would otherwise be having funds stuck. Maybe to give a concrete example, if Kenya Airways has funds in Nigeria that they are not being able to repatriate back to Kenya, then you look for a company that is operating in Kenya, let's say Dangote, and Dangote also has some monies that are stuck in Kenya, then you can do an exchange in terms of balancing out those funds between the two countries. So PAPS also now has that angle. And if you put it further, PAPS is part of the African Trade Gateway. And under the African Gateway, you also have the due diligence component. So with the due diligence, one of the key elements is then trusting who you are working with, trusting who you are trading with. And so in that case, then you are able to ensure that the companies that are trading with one another are companies that are well recognized within the continent, and the due diligence has already been done under the ATG platform. Thank you.
Yeah, but we know that PAPS majorly works in a structured environment, but we're still having to cover a lot of grounds when it comes to financial inclusion. So I'm wondering, adoption and accessibility for a majority population on the continent, since we are still looking for how to capture them into the financial inclusion formal system.
Yeah. Yes, and it is still possible. PAPS works through your commercial banks. So it is actually your commercial bank as a small and medium enterprise that you're working with. So the PAPS just provides the platform. PAPS provides the backbone that you can work with. But then they onboard the commercial banks in the different countries where they're operating. And now even they have moved on to fintechs. So that means at the end of the day, if let's say you're using UBA Bank here in Nigeria and you want to transfer money to UBA in, let's say, Rwanda, then you are still under the UBA umbrella. And so you're a customer of UBA. UBA already knows you. And so you can be able then to transfer funds from one country to another. So that way you have that financial inclusion that you are talking about, so that it is not only the big corporations that can actually get access, but even all the micro, small and medium enterprises are actually able to then get the necessary access to be able to send money from one country to another. So yes, there is financial inclusion even under the PAPS platform.
So, I mean, the picture you just painted now is that small businesses, doesn't matter how small, as long as you have an account with a deposit bank, you can go there.
Yes.
After initiating perhaps a transaction with your customer in Kenya, for instance, and then you can actually do your transaction right there through your banks using PAPS. I believe there's a card for it.
Yes, now there is PAPS card. Now with the PAPS card, if you go to your commercial bank and they give you a card, so the same way we use our credit cards or our debit card, that is how you will then be able to use the PAPS card. And that makes it much easier. And as you have mentioned, it brings in the inclusion component that we are actually looking for when we talk about ensuring that we bring our micro, medium and small enterprises into the game.
But, it does seem like there's still the need to overcome some sentiment of competition, even among businesses on the continent. I wonder if AFCFTA is looking that way, addressing that sentiment of competition, so we can settle with comparative advantage among the countries.
Yeah, okay, it's interesting you will say that, because one of the key elements why we are here today in Lagos, Nigeria, is because of the creative industry. So we are looking at the film, the music and the fashion industry. And let us be truthful, Nigeria has the lead in all these three industries. So one component that can reduce the issue of competition is collaboration. So let's say that Nollywood is already now well known in the continent. So how about making it easier to have our actresses, our actors, our technical people from the different parts of the continent being part of Nollywood? How about Nollywood also opening up smaller studios or even big studios in different regions of the continent? So let's not focus on the competition and focus on collaboration. What do I mean by collaboration? You can actually also have joint ventures with different entities around the continent. You can look at it also from the point of view of, let's say, having, like the creatives in this case, because that's what we're here for. The creatives creating their own network whereby they come together. They are able then to lobby even governments to say, look, how about ensuring that it is easy for the professionals in this sector to move from one country to another? to be able to provide their services? How can we reduce the barriers? And that is what, in essence, the AFCFTA is all about, reducing barriers to trade so that we can be able to trade more easily with one another in the continent. Now, one of the key areas that His Excellency Wam Kelemene, our secretary, is always talking about is value chain development. If you do your value chain development and different value chains in different ways, then you're able to bring on board many different countries to be part of that value chain. We have it now. We're looking at the pharmaceutical sector. We are looking at the transport and logistics area. We are looking at agro-business, and we are also looking at the tourism sector. So all these sectors have vast value chains being developed. And from there, then you have the inclusion of many countries so that we stop looking at it from the point of competition, but look at it from the point of how can we collaborate to actually enhance value chain development in the continent. And in addition to that, if we have to compete because we are at the same level, then there is actually a protocol that is dealing with competition policy that is also have been developed under the AFCFTA framework.
Yeah, very interesting there. But I hope you're also looking at issues around trans-border trade and the checks, the fees, the fines and security there, which in some cases have become very burdensome.
Yeah. So one of the key areas also we are working on is customs administration, looking at how do we harmonize at the border to ensure that first we reduce the hindrances or the barriers that can come up at the border. And one of the key areas to assist us with this and to bring the efficiency is digitalization of border processes. And I can give you a very good example from the East African community. And the East African community has actually been able to come together to look at the different procedures, to have what they call the one-stop border posts. And to have the one-stop border post, what it really entails is that the different officials from the two different countries that are at the border actually then sit together. When they sit together, it is easier for you to then process the paperwork in a more transparent manner and more easily. And here then we are also talking about digitalization. So even the movement of those goods from the origin to the last where they are being delivered, you also digitize that process so that those can be monitored. And I can even actually give you the statistics. We moved from moving goods from Mombasa, the port of Mombasa, to Kigali in Rwanda from 14 days to actually 3 days. So you can actually see what efficiency and digitalization can do. One of the key other elements that is being worked at now is the issue of what they call smart gates. Smart gates means that you are cleared at a certain point before you reach the border, and then at the border, if you have already been cleared, then you will not have to stop at the border. So there is already a digitalization that will be done to ensure that then at the border you do not have to stop. And that is what we are working on, even to enhance that, not only in East Africa, but in Southern Africa, in Central Africa, in West Africa, and also in North Africa.
Well, it's good to know that work is ongoing, not just in Nigeria, but on the continent, on a collaborative level to make AFCFTA work. And we had Mrs. Enwa earlier telling us her own first-hand experience of how she's benefiting actually from participating in AFCFTA. So I hope that others will also take advantage of some of those goodies that are available. Now, away from that, Ewa Oluwafe has emerged as the grand prize winner of 500,000 Naira in the 10th edition of the Indomie Fan Club Team Yourself Up competition. The grand finale ceremony, which held in Lagos, featured various exciting activities for children, teachers, and parents. The national coordinator of the Indomie Fan Club, Ogechukwu Faith, says that the competition is aimed at encouraging creativity and recycling in children while bonding with family members.
Kids kids arrive at the Apapa Amusement Park for the grand finale of the 10th edition of the Indomie Fan Club Team Yourself Up competition with the theme, Create the Future. The best crafts across the country are showcased at this finale, as the competition is designed to celebrate creativity, recycling, imagination, innovation, and bonding between Indomie Fan Club kids and their families. Each artwork displayed represents a child's unique perspective.
It's not just about the display of the beautiful arts work of the children. It's about seeing these children's talent come to life, seeing the creativity of these children come to life.
With over 60,000 entries received, the children create art by using empty Indomie cartons, sachets, and seasoning wrappers.
Look at the creativity and originality. You know, we need to see that we thought out of the box to an extent. You know, we need to be very creative.
Entry number 0!
And then the announcement of top and regional winners. Other participants are not left out, as they are also compensated for their good work.
Going home with 500,000.
Ewa Oluwa Feisheton emerges as the grand prize winner.
I'm happy for what Indomie has done for me. Thank you very much. I wish you the best. No even will come to you.
The management of Dufil Prima Foods, makers of Indomie instant noodles, reiterates its commitment to recognize and support the creative growth of Indomie Fan Club kids.
What the brand has just done is to give them the opportunity to say, hey, with the level of development we have around us, technology, AI, and the rest of them, you can actually create the future that you want to see. It's just encouraging the kids to hone their space, and the sky is usually actually their starting point.
We'll say while they are eating Indomie, there's also an opportunity when you are creative with the wrapper, with the cartons, and that is what we've consistently done in 10 years.
This year entry shows us that the children are taking ownership of this competition. So it's a good one for us, that the children are the one asking, when is the competition going to come up?
Indomie Fan Club is a brand that fosters emotional connection and bonding between families, encourages self-expression, builds confidence, and nurtures the creative potential of every child.
That's right, it's time to go global now. We're starting from expectations for the week. We'll start from Indonesia, where that country is expected to release its consumer confidence data today. And then in Saudi Arabia, industrial production data is expected to be released today. And then for tomorrow, Tuesday, Japan's bank lending rate will be released. And from the UK, unemployment data will be released. On Wednesday, South Korea's seasonally adjusted unemployment rate is expected to be released, as well as German annual inflation rate and also Argentina inflation rate month on month is expected to be released tomorrow, on Wednesday, beg your pardon. Then on Thursday, U.S. initial jobless claims is expected. U.S. consumer price index, that's also expected on Thursday. France unemployment rate, as well as Brazil car production. Those are the data expected for Thursday. On Friday, U.S. core PPI, that's a production price index that's expected on Friday. China unemployment rate is expected on Friday also, as well as Spain core inflation rate. So those are the expectations for this week, global economic data that's expected this week. And then to stories making the rounds this time is China. China has suspended sanctions on U.S.-linked subsidiaries of South Korea's Hanwha Ocean Co. Limited for a year, and that's according to Commerce Ministry. The suspension of sanctions imposed on October 14 takes effect immediately, and most investors will find it hard to answer that question with total confidence, short of a guarantee, which no one can give, the most successful traders have said. And still talking along that line, we also see that China has suspended some critical mineral export curbs to the United States. Has rolled back a number of restrictions on its export of critical minerals and rare earth minerals to the United States in a sign that trade truce between the world's two largest economies is holding. And talking about the United States, I think the biggest news at this time is that the United States Senate has advanced bill to end the federal shutdown. We know this is the longest in the history of the United States. Let's find out from Maria Bird how the people are feeling it, our correspondent in Washington, D.C. Hi, Maria. Good morning and welcome to the program. How are you guys feeling this shutdown?
Well, this shutdown has drastically impacted Americans. As we know, there's over 2 million federal government employees who have either been furloughed or out of work for these now 40 days that the government has been shut down. And I heard you mention earlier that the bill advanced through the Senate late yesterday evening, probably early in the morning in Nigeria, as senators were up very late. And what this really means is that there are a few Democrats that have band together and have been able to negotiate a deal. The challenge with this deal is that this does not include some of the healthcare pieces that Democrats were very clear and focused on, which is part of how they've not been able to come to an agreement. But the Republicans have agreed to a vote on a healthcare bill very soon. And this, what they've advanced, will only keep the government open until January 30th. Bearing in mind, though, this does not mean the government will open immediately or very soon. You still have to have the House to come back in session. And if the House is not able to move this forward, we could be at another standstill.
Wow, that's, I mean, because I wanted to ask, can we expect the shutdown to end soon since we see the Senate moving forward with this bill, or do we have any timeline in mind?
Well, if the House comes back and does what's very similar to what the Senate did, and there are some centrist Democrats that are able to come together and agree on this bill, then yes, we could be looking at 24, 48 hours for the government to reopen. If we're not able to do that and the House is not able to come back into session today, later today, and vote, we may see till the end of the week. There might have to be further negotiation. I think that this was one step, but there's still several more to go. And hoping, too, that the president does sign, if it does pass both the House and Senate, the president will sign the bill, because there are some things in there that the president was not necessarily in favor for, and especially the one around the Obamacare healthcare policy having a vote in the near future and being reviewed.
So any updates on the fate of the workers? You know, President Trump had said he was going to fire some of them and all of that.
So what the bill does state, which is another, I'm glad you mentioned that, is another area that could be a little contentious, is the fact that they've requested that all furloughed employees receive all of their back pay and that there's no future risks. And those who have been, to your point of risks, meaning laid off, are reinstated into their jobs. And so those reinstated, that could be a bit of a challenge there as well. That's a bit of a controversial topic.
All right, Maria, thank you so much. We do hope to hear good news. Perhaps the lawmakers are able to convene and try to accelerate this, and especially about the health bill. Of course, that's really, really important. We hope to hear some good news from that. Thank you so much for joining in the program. Okay, so that's it in Global News. And that's it on Business Morning. Thank you so much for starting this week with us. Promises to be a great week ahead. For more episodes of the program to go. But even before then, I'll see you at 1:30 for Business Incorporated, where I'll give you updates from the world of business in 25 minutes. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Make some money. Talk to you later.